Hey guys, it's Brent with Lykins Motorsports. Came back from PRI last week with a little bit of a crud. So, just as that time of year. But I'm going to see if I can get through this video. I'm also using a new camera. This is a GoPro Hero 13. We'll see how that turns out. It's supposed to be like 27 megapixels. So, hopefully the video will be a lot clearer and you guys will be able to see a lot more. I don't expect to nail it perfectly on the first video, so be some growing pains if you guys can be patient with me. We are working on some CHI heads today, and these are the 4V heads, which use a standard factory or aftermarket Cleveland 4V intake manifold, and CHI it's my favorite Cleveland cylinder head. So they're offered in 2V, 3V, and 4V. I've explained this before in the past, but the 3V is kind of a mix of a 2-barrel Cleveland head port size with the flow of a 4-barrel Cleveland head. So there are 2V heads. I've used those. They're really nice. They're like 190 cc port volume. They flow like 300 CFM. Their 3V stuff starts at like 185 cc's, goes all the way up to whatever you need them ported to, 260 cc's or better. I've had the 3V heads that flow almost 400 CFM. So nice pieces. These are the 4-barrel heads, and it's funny, people call in and say, I want the four valve heads. It's a four barrel heads. These are 228 cc port, and they flow around 300 CFM as well, a hair over at 600 lift. These are the 67 cc ports, or I'm sorry, 67 cc combustion chamber. All nice parts, bronze valve guides. We're going to be using some PAC and Ferrea parts today. We're going to be using two 190 intake valve and a 1650 exhaust valve. Some PAC valve springs, locators, retainers, that sort of thing. Let me see if I can give you a close-up of the valve job. They just do a phenomenal job on the valve job, and the guides are sized, and all the little details like the sharp edges broke around the combustion chamber and everything. I mean, these are really nice heads, and we're going to be putting these together for a customer and sending them out, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to clean everything and make sure everything's nice and clean before we start assembly, and then we'll clean the heads, clean the valves, and start mocking up our install heights to see where we need to put our springs. Alright, so got everything washed up, got our valves installed in here for mock-up purposes. We got our valve spring locators. Our locators are used for a couple of different reasons. One, in an aluminum head, it keeps the spring from chewing the aluminum up, and two, that shoulder that you see there helps to locate the valve spring. So your valve spring sits on top here, and the inner spring is a snug fit over this shoulder, or around the shoulder, and then that constrains it at the bottom, and then your valve spring retainer, which is this part, constrains the spring by the shoulder at the top. So you want snug fits on both of those pieces, and that'll keep your valve spring in the spot it's supposed to be in. So we're about 1/840 on our install heights. Same for exhaust and intake. So that would be an easy spot that would require no shims or anything else. This is a -50 lock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck a valve spring in the spring tester and see where we would be at 1/840. He's using a solid flat tappet camshaft with some pretty good lift on it, and we're going to pair that camshaft up. He already has the cam. It's a Bullet solid flat tappet. We're going to pair that cam up with some Crowler cool face lifters. So some of these lobes that the cam designers use are a little bit on the spicy side, so we want to make sure that we get a lot of oiling to the spot between the lifter and the cam lobe. I think he's at about 650 lift before lash, and I'll check his cam card here in a second to see where we need to be at, but we're going to be aiming for around 150 pound seat and probably around 370, 380, something like that over the nose. So I'm going to chuck a spring in the spring tester and see where we would be at with a 1/840 install height, and then minus the net valve lift that the cam would make. Alright, so I've got my intercomp spring tester here, and I've allowed for the thickness of the retainer. I'm going to pull this down to 1/840. About 155 pounds seat, which is right where I want them to be. We're going to go down to 1/210, which is our open height after lash. 1/210, about 385, 390 pounds, which is again right where we need to be. This is a pretty good size cam. His cam is I think like 252, 260 at 50, with about 630 net lift. So pretty good size cam. We're going to check coil bind here. We're going to make a solid out of that spring. The coil binds at 1/110, so we've got about 100 thousandths of coil bind clearance. So we're in a good spot for setting these springs up. We're going to do one other thing, because this is a flat tappet cam and everything needs to be broken in. We're going to break the cam in, or he will, with the inner springs out, because we don't want as much spring load. So we're going to pull this again to 1/840 and check our seat. So we are under 100 pounds. This is exactly where I want to be. And we're going to go down to that 1/210 number, 230 pounds. So to break in a flat tappet cam, I really like to be under 100 pounds seat and under 300 pounds open. So we are well in where we need to be. So when I set these heads up, when I assemble them, we'll leave the inner valve springs out, and then after he does his break in, he could put the inners back in. Alright, so we got all of our install heights measured, and I went ahead and checked our retainer to seal clearance. We have about 725 thousandths, which is very more than enough for this cam, and everything's looking good. Check it on both intake and exhaust. I just really love these heads. They go together so easy, and I'm thinking about after we do our test with the GT40P heads on JJ, maybe I can scrounge up some pennies and throw a set of these on here if I could find an intake manifold to work with it. But just a really nice set of heads. So all that's left now is to go ahead and install our valve springs, and again, we're not going to put the inners in. I'll put those in the box and send those with the rest of the parts that the customers bought. And when we get done, we'll check combustion chamber volume, and then we'll hop over to the other head. All right, here's head number 2. All of our install heights are coming in pretty much exactly the same. I did have to add 2 15,000 shims on a couple of these valves, so just to even them up. That's totally normal. You're just looking at your tolerance stack between your valve job and between your pocket depth and all that stuff. So completely normal if you have to do that. But business is same as usual. We get valve seals on, get our valves in, and our valve springs installed. We're using mainly Viton valve seals. If you're having to hammer your seals on, they're probably not the correct seals. Love these Manley seals. They have, you can tell I'm putting some effort into it, but there's no need into getting the hammer out. And those, you can tell they're shouldered against the guide, so everything is installed correctly, and that's as easy as it should be right there. Alright, here's a pair of assembled heads. These are advertised at 67 cc's. They come in at around 64 and some change. That's kind of typical depending on which valve you use, and the shape of the valve and the head of the valve makes a big difference in all of it. So I'm going to get these boxed up. We're sending some Crowler cool face lifters, inner valve springs, some Manley guide plates, and some ARP rocker arm studs. So this will be a nice package. If I remember correctly, customer has a ported single plane intake and 408 cubic inches underneath this, about 10.5 to 1 compression, and I think it'll do very, very well, probably close to 600 horsepower. Alright guys, this is Brent with Lykins Motorsports. Just thought you would like to see this. Don't get as many Cleveland engines and parts as I would like in here. Cleveland's are my favorite. But today we got these heads in, and I needed to turn them around and get them sent back out before Christmas. So that is one of the services that I offer. If you need a cylinder head, if you need them off the shelf, out of the box, I can do that. I can also buy them bare and custom assemble them if you have a camshaft in mind, that sort of thing. So pretty much provide whatever you need for any Ford engine that you have. Hope you guys are having a good week. I will catch you next time.